Bridgette, it is a little odd. I mean, you guys played a whole season in here, but it really feels like you're opening the arena in today's game.
Yeah, it was so cool to have so many fans here. It felt like a real basketball game.
Describe to us what last year was like. Was it almost like playing a summer tournament, AAU or something? There were some fans, there was a little bit of noise, but then there were some buildings that you played in that there was nobody there.
Yeah. It felt a lot like AAU, like your parents showed up, but that was kind of it. Like your friends didn't really come, and the fans were so far away from you. Wasn't super loud, but yeah, it was definitely a weird experience. But I mean, I wouldn't change it. It's part of life.
One of those things that you'll always look back on. I mean, when you're 80 years old and sitting in the nursing home, you're going to go, when I played basketball, they didn't let anybody in the building.
Yeah.
Then the person next to you go, were you guys that bad? And you go, no, we had a pandemic. Well, hopefully, I mean, I know it's not over, and there's still a lot of things to fight through, and there's still some protocols that everybody has to deal with as far as travel restrictions and stuff like that. But it does seem like the page is turned and we're moving in the right direction, and you can kind of focus on basketball. But before we jump off of that, how has academics changed in the last 18 months?
Especially for us athletes, like everything is online. And last year, mostly everyone went to online school, like non-athletes and athletes. And then this year it's like kind of a little bit of a hybrid. Like some people are going in for their lab classes, but then like when their lecture's happening, they'll do it virtually. And for me, I'm in grad school, so everything was already online, so I was kind of expecting that. But yeah, especially.
What are you studying?
What am I studying?
Yeah.
So I'm getting a master's in interdisciplinary studies, which basically is you choose 2 different majors, and you kind of do like a fast track through those majors, and you kind of. So I'm doing global studies and public health, and so how those correlate is it's going to be a lot of like missionary stuff. And like global studies is how to share the gospel throughout cultures, and public health is obviously public health policies and how to like implement better health in the communities that you're in.
Not that anybody's rooting for a global pandemic, but as far as for what you're doing, the timing is perfect. That need, I'm sure, over the next several years is going to be great, and so that's kind of a cool time to be in that field. Has there been a lot of like practical experience that you've been able to learn about during this process?
Yeah, I've actually written quite a few research papers about COVID and how it's like impacted specific communities, and it's pretty crazy how what I'm studying now is so applicable to what is going on in the world.
Speaking of things that have changed in the last 18 months, if we go back, well, let's say 2 years ago. If you go back 2 years ago, you look at this Lady Flames team, and there's a Kian Green out there, and there's an Emily Lytle, and there's an Ashton Baker, and they're not there anymore. And so did you feel any extra pressure coming into this season of like, okay, somebody's going to have to step up and score some points, and that might just be me?
I wouldn't necessarily say pressure, because for me, whether I'm the one who scores or not, it's not a super big deal to me as long as we're winning. Like, to me, a great pass is just as important as a bucket. And so if I'm the one who's giving the great pass, or I set a screen that opens them up, like, I'm happy with that. So I wouldn't say that I had pressure to score, but I do know that there is a little bit of a void. And I think everyone else kind of recognizes that too. And so everyone's stepped up. You look at our score sheet, and almost everyone who touched the floor had at least a bucket. And I think that just kind of goes to show how everyone on our team has that capability, and I don't think anyone is going to necessarily be a weak link in that. And so, yeah, we lost probably with Emily and Ashton 20 to 30 points a game with them leaving, but I think that wealth will be distributed distributed well amongst the rest of the players.
It's always fun to win, but tonight's game seemed like just the style of game was fun. You guys were getting in transition and getting some secondary breaks and shooting some three-pointers, and it just seemed like everybody – you were winning by a lot of points, and that puts a smile on your face too, but it seemed like it was just a fun style of basketball.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you saw today is how we would love to play every game. And, of course, it's not going to be always the same. Like some teams are going to be better on transition defense, and so we might have to walk the ball up a little bit more. But playing fast, I think, fits this team very well. Whether that happens or not, we'll see what Coach Green says. But, yeah, I think everyone was having a good time out here today.
Well, last question for you. In your career, I don't think we've had this many home games before Christmas in a season before. Certainly not very many times that you've got seven games and some pretty quality opponents. Ohio's going to be very good. James Madison's always good. We saw Memphis last year. High Point, a solid Big South team, and Virginia Tech's obviously a top of the pack ACC team. It's a tough home slate for you guys, but are you up for the challenge?
Oh, definitely. I think, the last couple years we've been undefeated at home, I believe, or pretty close.
It's 18 in a row now.
Yeah, and so we're trying to keep that streak. We talked about it yesterday, and we'll see what happens. Those are some very good teams, and if we can win the non-conference home games, it'll be a big confidence booster for us.
Well, I know everybody thinks about Florida Gulf Coast because they've been the team to beat in the ASUN, and I'm sure that is circled on the calendar when you guys play them later on in the season. But you've got some teams that you can really prove your weight in this region if you can get some wins. JMU, Virginia Tech, and even Ohio. We saw them last year and how good they are, and they're probably even better this season. So
yeah,
a lot of chances to prove yourself, and we'll be here for the ride. Can't wait to see it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. That was Bridgette Rettstatt.